Mark Levin spoke to some Tea Party members of Congress, and this is absolutely fascinating because they're true Kool-Aid drinking far right wingers, and they think that the country totally agrees with them. Now, of course, they don't, but these guys don't know that, so this is like watching an episode of The Twilight Zone. Take a look.
Why did they take so many seats?
Yeah.
Jim Jordan.
Well, you're right. I don't think we matched, on the House side in our races, I don't think we matched the intensity that the president has displayed here in this town, taking on the establishment, taking on the swamp, taking on this town. And remember, everywhere the president went, he made a huge difference. You talk about Missouri, you talk about Indiana, you talk about Florida. We got a Freedom Caucus guy who's now the governor of the state of Florida, one of our largest states.
Ron DeSantis.
He came to Ohio on the Monday before. The projections were we might lose all statewide races. We won them all but one. And that's because the president came to Ohio. So the president, there was an intensity and energy about this guy that the American people appreciate. They saw that matched in the Senate when the Senate stood up and defended Kavanaugh, but they haven't seen it from the House. I mean, have we replaced Obamacare? Have we reformed welfare? Have we secured the border? Those were the three biggest promises we made the American people.
The leadership there would say, well, wait a minute, we sent that stuff to the Senate. Is that true?
Some of that went to the Senate, only the health care bill. We didn't do a welfare reform package yet, and we certainly haven't secured the border. We had a good bill, as you know, Mark, that we all supported as conservatives, that Chip was campaigning on the campaign trail, but we only got 193 votes because we couldn't get enough Republicans to do what we said we were going to do. So the message should have been in this campaign, we've accomplished what we told you we were going to do, more importantly, what you elected us to do in 2016. That should have been the message, but we couldn't say that because all we had really gotten done was the tax cuts. So this is going forward. We have to regain the trust of the American people and get accomplished those. Tell them, if you put us back in power, we're going to get those things done.
Chip Roy, what did you campaign on in your successful race?
So my message was pretty simple. I ran, as Congressman Jordan just alluded to, I ran on securing the border, I ran on healthcare freedom, and I ran on balancing the budget. And these are all things that Republicans have said they would do for a long time, but failed to do. And if you want to know what happened, you don't need to look any further than the fact that the Republicans literally failed to do what they said they would do over the last several years.
Okay, so here's the difference between the base on the left and these guys who I would call the base on the right. These are, they came in the Tea Party wave, or at least Representative Jim Jordan did. He's the Freedom Caucus head, and Freedom Caucus is the Tea Party caucus. I always find that it's so funny that they've called themselves the Freedom Caucus, because on so many issues that are like the heart of what it would mean to be free, they're on the wrong side. Like, have they ever spoken about legalizing gambling? Have they ever spoken about legalizing prostitution? Do they agree with totally legalizing marijuana and ending the drug war? I mean, hilarious that we're the freedom people who don't believe in freedom at all. But I digress from that. They're like the base of the right. That's what I would call them, the true believers on the right. Whereas, you can compare that to a guy like Mitch McConnell or like what John Boehner was, where they're like the hardcore corporatists on the right, and they care more about serving their donors. A guy like these two guys here, they care about serving their donors, but they also do believe in the ideology to one extent or another. Certainly more than Mitch McConnell, let's say, and John Boehner. They believe in what they're pushing for way more than those guys do. Now, the funny thing is, though, the stuff we push for on the left, all of the polling shows that it's overwhelmingly popular. Medicare for all, 70% of the American people want it, even 52% of Republicans. Free college, 58% of the American people want it. Raising the minimum wage, 80% of the American people want to raise the minimum wage. Raising taxes on the rich, 58% of the American people want to raise taxes on the rich. Legalize marijuana, 62% of the American people want to legalize marijuana. 75% of the American people say immigration is a net positive, is a net benefit. So again, issue for issue, our ideas are so popular. So popular. These guys are convinced that their ideas are popular, but their ideas are not popular. So the top three things they gave: well, the reason why we were voted out is because we didn't keep our promises. What we needed to do was replace Obamacare, reform welfare, and protect the border. Okay, well, I just told you 75% of Americans think immigration is a positive thing. So for you to put the border front and center, that does play well with your base, but the overwhelming majority of Americans are not on board with that. They don't agree with you. Reforming welfare. Reforming welfare. First of all, I haven't even seen a poll on it, okay? That's point number one. Point number two is, we already had welfare reform. It was a right-wing version of a welfare reform done by Bill Clinton. But guess what? It's never enough. It's never enough for these guys. What they really mean is get rid of the entire social safety net. That's the page that they're on. Now, once you talk about that and dive into the details, what they really want is to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And those ideas are incredibly unpopular. In fact, so unpopular, Trump was smart enough in the campaign to say, I'm not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I'm going to protect it. I'm going to protect it. So even the Republican base didn't want to hear that. But these guys are acting like, well, obviously what they want us to do is cut welfare and cut the social safety net. Nobody wants that. Okay, and then finally, the most hilarious one. We didn't repeal and replace Obamacare. Now, hold on. Donald Trump's proposal, TrumpCare, had a 12% approval rating. I'm not kidding. It was 12%. 12%. And they're like, well, obviously people would have liked it if we had implemented that. It had a 12% approval. Nobody liked it. Nobody wanted it. That was a terrible bill. It was a horrendous bill. Are you kidding me? And then also the idea, we didn't repeal Obamacare. Well, actually, Donald Trump has been doing these executive orders that have basically destroyed Obamacare. That's why 3 million people lost their health insurance in his first year in office. So you're kind of effectively getting what you wanted without it officially being done. Okay, but furthermore, what percentage of the American people in the polling say, oh, that should be your priority, Republicans, when you take over, when you have control of Congress. Like, we want you to repeal Obamacare. The highest number I saw, the highest number. This isn't even, there are numbers that are lower that exist too when you poll this question. 28% of Americans are like, yeah, repeal Obamacare. Only 28%. And these guys are like, the problem is we didn't officially repeal Obamacare. No, that would have been deeply unpopular if you did it. So in other words, they think all the things that would have made them more unpopular are the things that would have made them more popular. Insanity. So these are the true Kool-Aid drinking right-wingers. That's what they are. Like, they think that they're like, yeah, we're fighting for the people. We're the truth tellers over here. Meanwhile, when you look at the polling data, everything they want is unpopular. So the impact would be the opposite. So if Jim Jordan got exactly what he wanted, the Republicans would have gotten wiped out even more than they did. It's hilarious how disconnected they are from reality, and they don't care. Listen, if you're somebody who likes everything he stands for, fine. But the thing I object to is the idea that, oh, this would have made us do better in the election if we stuck to these things. No, that is factually untrue. That is like, none of the evidence points in that direction. None of it. So that's the part that I'm really pissed off by. If you happen to agree with the Tea Party, okay, fair enough. But just acknowledge that the polls show your ideas are not that popular, because they're not.